Hey, so I noticed a couple of films this year, well, probably more than a couple, but there was a lot of talk around salmon, right, and restoring our rivers. And we had Gary here earlier talking about restoring salmons in the Yuba. Sandra and Mark were talking about the Columbia River. I'm excited. Russ Schnitzer is here, and his film is Wild Fish Works, Oregon Coast. And so you've been getting down and dirty with salmon too.
I have
Russ.
been, yeah, and it's been an honor to be here and to share the film with people here at the film festival. The thing I want to make clear first and foremost, despite the title, which is provincial, that Wild Fish Works is about connecting human stories with the human relationships with wild fish. And that is something that can be extrapolated anywhere. So whether it's here on the Yuba or even in the southern Appalachians with native brook trout, we can talk about the value that those fish have to lives that are more than just anglers. Obviously, people that fish, they're able to be engaged with wild fish conservation issues.
Yeah.
But if we're going to secure a future for wild fish, we have to make them valuable to more than just anglers.
Yeah, and I think also, it's a big part of even creating film is having that emotional connection, right, with the story, and that's what gets people, excited and motivated to actually do something about it and care about it.
That's what all of us are here for, I believe, is sharing our passion as it's connected to the stories that we're here showcasing. It's obviously particularly relevant in my world and in my life. I'm an angler. I've always been an angler.
What does that mean to be an angler?
I fish.
So you're like is that like fly fishing?
I'm a fly fisherman.
Okay.
Yes, but to be an angler of any way, shape, or form means having a connection with a piece of water or many pieces of water and certain species of fish. And all of that shared passion, no matter how you pursue it, that's how we dovetail into conservation and into meaningful campaigns that allow us to leave a better resource for the kids.
So in talking about the stories and connecting even the story of the anglers with the salmon, what's one of your favorite stories that stands out for you?
I think my favorite stories generally are ones that relate to agriculture, because I grew up as a farm kid in Minnesota, and I grew up amongst people that agriculture was central. It was a central part of the way of life, the culture, and I've always held that connection to the land to be very important. And the connection with fish is a pretty unique one. So with Wild Fish Works, we talk about a sheep ranch in southern Oregon, where they have this amazing property that extends right to the edge of the ocean. The bluffs drop straight off into the ocean, and it's a fourth or fifth generation ranching family. They homesteaded there as immigrants. It's an incredible story, and they aren't particularly passionate about fishing, but they're passionate about their land and keeping it whole. And part of that story is wild coho salmon. So they've restored all of this coho spawning habitat on their ranch, taken land out of production, set it aside for spawning habitat, just because they feel it's the right thing to do. And keep it in balance with the rest of their operation.
What do you want folks to take away with your film, with Wild Fish Works Oregon Coast? What's like the main point? Especially for those who haven't seen it yet, but probably will.
The main point is that there are, case in point, at our screening this afternoon, at the end of it, I asked the audience, how many of you are anglers? And you get a quarter of the audience raises their hands. People fish. But it's a fraction. It's a fraction of the population. I ask people in the audience who cares about wild salmon and steelhead, and nearly everybody raises their hands. It's those extra hands that we need to amplify, their stories, their connections, Those are the things that we need to elevate in importance. That's the future for wild salmon and steelhead policy and management, and hopefully viable populations in the future.
My last question is, Russ, what do you think it is about the salmon? You know, I mentioned earlier there were so many films featuring the salmon. What is it about the salmon that makes the salmon so special and why it's getting so much attention?
It has a certain charisma to it, but even more than that, it holds such a connection to us regionally. It's a core part of our culture. If you've lived in the Pacific Northwest for any period of time, you have street names that are salmon names. You have towns that are fish names. It's part of who we are. And I think that there's a unique visceral connection that people have with salmon and steelhead that's different than connections they have with other fish. It's an icon, and it's a symbol of not just of the region and of us as a people, but of our future.
Yeah, well said. The film is Wild Fish Works Oregon Coast. Thanks so much, Russ. It's his first time at Wild Scenic.
Thank you.
And wow, what a day. What a day it's been. You've had an amazing day, I'm sure.
It's been so
right?
much fun. It's a great experience. Yeah, and I'm excited to put a film in again next year, and hopefully I'll be back again to talk about it.
Wild salmon and steelhead represent significant social, cultural, and economic ties up and down the Oregon coast. Wild Fish Works is an effort to share different examples of these connections in practice. The Oregon coast's natural resource economy can and does abide wild fish. We hope to show how economic value, quality of life dividends, and wild fish coexist, and in doing so, present a strong case for giving wild fish a chance. These are stories unique to the Oregon coast, at the intersection of people, economy, and wild salmon and steelhead. This is Wild Fish Works.